Welcome back. Today we're tackling something that basically all of us struggle with. We're looking at why so many driven, ambitious professionals and creators constantly feel totally overwhelmed all day long, yet somehow end up feeling like they haven't made any real progress. We're going to see why being extremely busy might actually be the ultimate red flag that your system is just failing you.
I'm extremely busy. There's this really strange kind of pride we take in saying those exact words, isn't there? It sounds responsible. It sounds important. It feels like proof that you have momentum. But as we'll see today, most of the time, this phrase isn't proof that you're doing valuable work. It's actually the clearest signal of a total breakdown in your work hierarchy.
Section 1. The illusion of motion. Because motion is definitely not progress.
We really need to untangle these two concepts because we mix them up constantly. Motion versus productivity. See, a packed calendar provides this highly visible evidence of effort. When you're in a state of motion, you're answering every message instantly. You're bouncing from a Zoom call to a Slack thread to a browser tab, and you end the day just completely wiped out. You can point to the meetings, right? You can point to the hundreds of tiny things you touched. But, and this is absolutely crucial, evidence of effort is not evidence of progress. True productivity is different. It's simply important work moving forward with focus and completion.
Think of it like someone running on a treadmill for 8 hours straight. From the outside, they look incredibly committed, they're sweating, they're moving, they are suffering. But if their actual goal was to cross a city, well, that treadmill is just a machine for converting energy into the feeling of travel. And that is exactly what chronic busyness does to our work. It just converts your attention into the feeling of progress without actually getting you anywhere.
Section 2. The biology of urgency. Let's look at the fast rewards trap.
I want to reassure you right out of the gate, falling into this trap is not about you having weak willpower. It is literally our biology. There's this fascinating research by Meng Zhu, Yang Yang, and Christopher Heasey on something called the mere urgency effect. They found that we reliably choose urgent tasks over more important tasks, even when the actual payoff is way lower. Why? Well, because shallow work gives us these incredibly fast rewards. You answer an email, the tension drops. You clear a notification, uncertainty disappears. You cross off that tiny task, and your brain gets a quick, satisfying hit of completion. Urgency is just biologically persuasive.
As the quote goes, the urgent task speaks in a louder voice than the important task. It literally just screams, "Deal with me right now." Important tasks, on the other hand, are usually pretty quiet. They ask you to think, to build, to plan, or just sit with the discomfort of uncertainty. So what do? We obey the loud voice. We handle 20 tiny emergencies and end up completely abandoning the one quiet thing that could have actually changed the shape of our week. We basically turn obedience to emergencies into a highly socially acceptable form of procrastination.
Section 3. Busyness as a status symbol, a costume for importance. It's not just our biology working against us here. There's this whole cultural layer to the problem called the conspicuous consumption of time. Researchers Sylvia Beleza, Niro Paharia, and Anat Kainan argue that a lack of leisure time has actually become our modern status signal. In a lot of workplaces, a full calendar is basically a costume for importance. The logic goes kind of like this. If you're completely exhausted, well, you must be committed. If you're totally unavailable with zero free time, you must be incredibly valuable and needed. Busyness literally becomes a badge of honor.
But here's the catch. A culture that worships busyness eventually punishes clarity. Clear priorities naturally create empty space. When you know exactly what matters, you simply don't need to do everything. But a culture of busyness is absolutely terrified of empty space, so it fills every single gap with frantic motion, just to provide proof that you are trying.
I want to just pause and let this question sink in for a second. When every single hour is full, no one has to ask the harder question. Full of what? If your calendar is just a solid block of color, no manager, and honestly no part of your own conscience, is going to accuse you of slacking off. And that is exactly where low productivity hides.
Section 4. The cost of attention residue. This is the true cognitive cost.
Operating this way isn't just a time management issue. It's a systemic failure. And the cost isn't just time. It's our actual cognitive capacity. This brings us to Sophie Leroy's brilliant research on attention residue. What she found is that every time you switch tasks, you leave a little residue behind. You leave a meeting, but part of your brain is still negotiating that last conversation. You open a new tab, but your mind is still stuck on the email you just sent. This severely reduces your future cognitive performance. And this is exactly why you can have a completely full workday, feel insanely busy the whole time, and yield zero deep output. Your hours were occupied, but your mind never actually fully arrived.
So where does this low productivity actually hide in the wild? Well, it hides in calendars full of meetings that only exist because decisions weren't made earlier. It hides in those massive message threads where everyone is chiming in, but absolutely no one is owning the outcome. It hides when teams treat urgency as their actual strategy. And it hides in individuals who spend so much time managing the appearance of being useful that they literally have no time left to do the actual work.
Section 5. A practical productivity reset. It's time to escape the busy trap.
So, how do we actually get out of this trap? The very first step isn't to suddenly become lazy. The first step is to become incredibly honest. Ask yourself this highly uncomfortable question. If half of today's tasks just magically disappeared, which half would actually damage the outcome? Not which half would make you feel a little guilty, not which half would make your response time look worse on a messaging app. Which half would actually hurt the final result? Sure, some tasks prevent real problems, but let's be real, a lot of them are just noise with a deadline attached.
To answer that question, we have to separate visible work from valuable work. Visible work is super easy to prove in the moment. It leaves a paper trail, replies, status updates, pings, filled out dashboards. But valuable work is quiet. It looks like sitting and thinking before you answer. It looks like closing literally every tab except one. It looks like spending 90 uninterrupted minutes making a really solid decision that prevents 10 future meetings from ever happening. Visible work just proves you're busy right now. Valuable work proves you were productive in the end. So here's the playbook for designing your day so shallow work stops colonizing all your time. Step 1. Schedule your high-leverage tasks first. Not after your inbox is at zero, not after you've handled every tiny request. Put it first. Step 2. Batch the shallow work. Give your admin tasks and quick replies a strict container so they don't leak into every single hour of your day. And Step 3. Fundamentally change how you evaluate your day. This is a massive shift in mindset. You have to stop asking yourself, was I busy today? And instead measure by outcomes. Ask yourself, what important thing actually moved? Did the proposal get clearer? Did the product improve? Did the lesson get written? Did that big decision finally get made? Did my actions today make tomorrow lighter? If you're moving the needle on those things, you were highly productive even if your day looked incredibly quiet to everyone else.
Now, I want to make sure you hear this clearly. The goal is absolutely not an empty calendar. An empty calendar can be just as dishonest as a totally packed one. The real goal is a calendar that tells the truth. It's a system where urgency actually has limits, where your focus is fiercely protected, where those shallow tasks definitely have a place, but they aren't sitting on the throne dictating your entire day.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. The opposite of busyness isn't idleness. The opposite of busyness is leverage. The most productive people aren't the ones who can merely survive the most chaos. They're the ones who calmly keep choosing what matters, even while chaos is begging to be mistaken for work. Choose one task that would still matter if no one saw you doing it, and put it on the calendar before the noise arrives.